Good evening, Beruchim Habayim Rabotai. Welcome to another edition of our Thursday night's class. Tonight's class was sponsored Leilui Nishmat Michael Ben Esther. Tei nafshot tzrua b'tzrua chaim began eden ha'inyon ulol tzadikim ha'chasidim. Amen v'amen. Our title tonight wasn't in the spirit of George Floyd. Honestly, that's not worth our time. Every life matters was the core of the parsha. But I do feel obligated just to hold people honest a little bit, because intellectual honesty is the foundation of life. And if somebody loses their intellectual honesty, then I'm not really sure what they're doing here anymore. And I happen to be a big fan of the Black Lives Matter movement. Maybe not in the context that they call themselves, and definitely not in looting and destroying things and whatever, but and it has nothing to do with Black lives. Every life matters. But if you want to preach that Black Lives Matter, on top of all the insanity behind the chaos that they caused in the country and the amount of death and other things that they caused and spread of illness and everything else, you can't have a double standard. You can't preach one thing and do the other just because your agenda dictates so that day. And I'm referring to two things. Somebody sent me a clip which I identified with. If Black Lives Matter, which I think we all agree, because all life matters, then why aren't there protests about millions of black kids that are killed every year in abortions? Black Lives Matter. Every baby deserves a life, even if he's African American. And until the day they don't go to protest on a pro-life agenda, then they shouldn't say that any life matters, because no life matters to them. And they go and kneel saying whatever amount of minutes and seconds that cop did, and I'm not justifying what he did, it was extremely evil and disgusting, to kill a person. Maybe they should watch some medical documentaries on what they do to a baby when they abort him and how they pull out body parts. Sorry for the graphic description. It's a lot more gruesome than that video. I watched many of them. And when we lose, because of the influence of a left-wing media with an agenda, our basic foundation to simple intellectual honesty, we risk losing everything. And mainly what we risk losing is our Yiddishkeit, our Judaism, which that's what's really important to me, because everything else is trivial in comparison to that. As soon as double standards are allowed, so there is no end to double standards. And then everything can be a double standard. Everything can be twisted and converted. So we have to choose. If life matters straight across the board. All lives matter. And we'll start with babies in their mother's wombs. And if that doesn't matter, then what are you even talking about? Who cares what you have to say? You're just a dishonest person. Dishonest people, con artists, there were enough in life. And this is important not for political things. I have zero interest in American politics. Everybody knows that. The most I get out of it is, thank God we have a president who's kind of entertaining, so once in a while I get a good laugh because of him. Hopefully he gets reelected, because that'll continue giving us some entertainment. And thank God he's been pro-Israel too, which is a blessing, and for that reason alone, even though maybe the polls look ugly, we probably should be praying that, God willing, he gets reelected. Because he was a friend to us, and a friend to Israel. And a friend to us and to Israel, obviously we have great akarat hatov to, a lot of gratitude to, and we hope God protects him and makes him successful in whatever he does that's good for the Jewish nation. But in life we need a perspective of consistent honesty. Step one. Step two, there's more to life than what's called the life and the death moment. I'm alive now, somebody killed me, I'm dead. Not me, God forbid, and none of you, nobody. There's quality of life, which is a dictator in life. Chazal have many, many places that they discuss different people in different situations that the Gemara calls chashuv kimet. It's as if they're dead. One of the most known ones is ani chashuv kimet. Somebody who doesn't have a way to sustain himself financially is considered as if he was dead. And Chazal HaKadoshim, with their wisdom and appreciation of the power of life, also make parallels in the way we treat others into life and death. Like we learn from the story of Yehuda and Tamar, that to embarrass somebody is murder, is a form of murder. To the point that Rabbeinu Yonah writes the halacha, if you would have a situation that you were held to gunpoint and you have a choice to either embarrass another Jew or to die, you would have to die. Because it's one of the Gimel Chamurot Shebat Torah. Avodah Zarah, Gilui Arayot, Shfichut Damim. And those values get washed away. The media has no problem talking bad about anybody, embarrassing anybody, making up conspiracy theories about anybody. Everything's okay. But suddenly something that's populist and might bring a few more votes, that becomes not okay. Now normally I would make no mention of it. It would just be a mockery that wouldn't even be willing to be worth being addressed. But being that unfortunately we're all phone addicts, and as a result we're all connected to every notification on Twitter and news and this and that all the time. And by the way, if you ever want to regain your mental sanity, disconnect from the news for a week. It's literally Tchiyat HaMeitim. That's modern day Tchiyat HaMeitim. You suddenly feel like you're alive again. So this ends up influencing the way we think on a daily basis. And one of the wild things, if you have the patience to pay attention to, is even amongst the most righteous and even amongst the most learned within the Torah communities, you see how the narrative of what they say throughout history was influenced by their surroundings. Because Chazal teaches a person is influenced by his surroundings. The Rambam writes, for example, that if somebody lives in a city that Bnei Iro, the people of his city, are not righteous people, he's not allowed to live there, he should move. But what if he can't move? What if he has nowhere to move to? So the Rambam says he should go to the Midbar, to the desert, he should live in the desert. I don't think desert life is a lot of fun. I'm not into camping of any sort. But from my vague memory of the IDF, desert life wasn't fun at all. That sounds pretty extreme, no? That would, in our world today, we would say the Rambam was a fanatic extremist. God forbid, but that's the way people would say it. He says, if your neighbors aren't people that live an ethical way, go move to a desert. So there were rabbis in recent Jewish history that took this very literal. Once one of the great rabbis went to visit the Briskerov. The story was said in different variations, but Rav Shalom Shadon used to say the story that Rav Shach went to visit the Briskerov. Others say it was somebody else. And he knocked on the door, and the Briskerov said 1 minute, and it took about 15 minutes for him to answer. And finally, when he opened the door, he saw piles and piles of sandbags. And he thought that the Briskerov maybe thought that the war wasn't over yet. Because in Israel then, right before that, there was a war. And he told him, Rabbi, the war was over already. You don't have to have sandbags. He said, what war? So he realized then that the rabbi wasn't even, that's how detached he was from the news. He wasn't even aware that there was a war. They said, so what are these sandbags? So he says, come. And he opens them up to Rambam and he shows them what the Rambam says. He said, across the street from my house, they opened a theater. The first theater in Jerusalem was called Kolnoa Edison. By the way, God's sense of humor. Today it's owned by Satmar. Soon it's going to become an Neturei Karta stronghold. But when the Zionists wanted to uproot Judaism, they opened Kolnoa Edison. That was the first theater in Jerusalem, and the first theater opened on Shabbat in Jerusalem, owned by Jews. And where did they pick to open it out of all places? Across the street from the Briskerov's house. They couldn't find a better place to put this thing. And he says, and the Rambam says, you have to move. Where should I move to? I want to stay in Eretz Yisrael, and to move to another city, it's even worse. I'll go to Tel Aviv. What am I going to see there? He says, so the Rambam's other solution is you should go to the desert. He said, but my kids and wife, they won't be able to survive in the desert. So it's just not practical. It's not going to work. So I made my house a desert. So he covered the whole front door with sandbags. So then, let's say it was Rav Shach, maybe not for sure, but let's say it was Rav Shach, who was the rabbi involved there, asked him, but what'd you gain by that? He said, you know what I gained by it? That if to get out of the house or to open the door for somebody takes 15 minutes, you think twice before you do it. Is it really necessary or not? And when you do it, you do it with the mind frame of, I got to be careful. Lately, there's been a trend based on laws. We'll call them that. No mask, no entry. I want to start a new trend. Hopefully it'll become a popular hashtag soon. No common sense, no entry. If you can't live by basic common sense rules and have just the most simplistic, consistent attitude to everything, then no entry. I don't let you into my heart. You're not part of my life. That's not what I want to associate with. I'll pray for you. I think you're sick in the head, so you need mental help. So we'll pray that Hashem should send you a for shlema and everything. And it's very important to pray for people like that. But that's the extent of it. I don't want to catch that germ. That's a lot more dangerous than any variation of COVID. And it's all a matter of attitude. Just like everything in life, it's all a matter of attitude. And this is important to say. We've been through a lot. We've been through a lot of turmoil and a lot of chaos and everything, some I addressed last week. And there's still a lot of confusion going on. I understood that from some letter that I saw that they got the chief rabbi of Israel to write about people that are panicking and running to make aliyah and whatever. Interesting letter, 4 pages long, very interesting. Showed a lot of knowledge, a lot of sources of the importance of living in Israel. But the beauty of it was the conclusion. We don't do things out of panic. We don't do things out of chaos, and we don't make emotional decisions. So with all the importance and beauty and everything of living in Israel, and Shem Shalom, we should all merit happily soon to live in Israel, in our own homeland, and fend for our own and fight for our own, or not need to fight. That would be the ultimate situation when Mashiach comes. But with all that, we still don't do things out of panic. And we don't do things out of chaos. That's not the Jewish way. The foundation of Judaism was Yishuv Hadat, rationale, calm thinking, not stressed thinking. And in a time of chaos, you definitely don't make decisions, because every decision you're going to make is wrong. Because it's all influenced by chaos. That's exactly the goal of the Yetzer Hara over here. When Paro saw that the Jews wanted to leave Egypt, he panicked, because he knew that in a moment of truth, Paro called himself an idol, but he was the biggest God believer. Because if he had to go to such an opposite extreme, to say, Li Ori v'ani asitini, you only go to an opposite extreme if you're one of them. My dear friend Rav Nergeshel once told me he was hired to speak in Paris. Now it seems like it's customary in Paris that they don't, I don't know for sure, I never spent the Shabbat there in my life, but it seems like it's customary over there that a lot of the Jewish community doesn't wear a talit on their way to synagogue on Shabbat because of fear of anti-Semitic acts, which is very justified if that's the case. I don't know the facts, but assuming that those are the facts, that would be a very justified thing. Many years ago in the United States, Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky felt that way here as well. Today, I don't know if that's applicable, but that's what he felt. There's no reason to take people's eyes out and to make an extra statement and to cause extra hatred. No, he didn't know that. And he was staying by somebody's house. And he was going to pray in some synagogue where he was hired to speak Shabbat morning. He wakes up in the morning and he puts on his talit like a Jew in Israel does. And he starts walking to synagogue. And it was a far walk. It was about a 10-15 minute walk. In an area that he doesn't even know, so he has to pay close attention to the streets based on what they told him to make sure he gets to the right destination. And he says he was in what's considered a busy city square this Shabbat morning. And a car pulls up to him and makes a short stop like right in front of him. And a guy opens up the window, and here he gets a little bit nervous. He's in a foreign country, and he knows that there are many anti-Semitic acts, and he's a Jewish guy walking on the street on a Saturday morning. He didn't know like if they're coming to attack him or something. And he says in a fluent Yiddish, a Jew screams out of the window, who was the driver of the car on Shabbat morning, Rebid, machnish kin chilul Hashem. Jew, don't make a chilul Hashem. I'm using very calculated words, trying to be politically correct. I'm really controlling myself right now. For all those who are preaching Chilul Hashem in the past 4 months, my answer to them is, Rebid machnish ken Chilul Hashem. And everybody should take it in any way they want. When they taught us the value of a pizza shop being more important than a synagogue, and a burger joint being more important than a bet midrash, they may have began the destruction of the Jewish nation. And I hope we were smart enough to teach our kids values that aren't that way. I hope. I really hope. And this is an Eitz Harai Yaakov. And I'm not talking about the medical aspect. I'm not a doctor, I said that last week, so that's not my field. I'm talking about the spiritual aspect. It's extremely hard to get children to go back to a routine of studying Torah after 4 months of sitting on tablets all day. It's extremely hard to retrain your brain to go to a synagogue to pray after months of being told don't go into a synagogue. It's extremely hard to do many other things like that. And when everything became mutter with some weird heter or the other that has no grounds in halacha, and all in the name of doing a mitzvah, it's going to be very hard to retrain our brains to actually become old-fashioned, authentic Jewish Jews, just like our grandparents were and great-grandparents were. Our greatest pride is the fact that we stay primitive. We're not progressives. And the day we become progressive is the day that Judaism went bankrupt. And that's the challenge. But I'm an eternal optimist. So I don't see this challenge as doomsday. I actually see this challenge as the greatest opportunity ever. And I think we can kind of bring it out and understand it from what's going on in the parasha. Right? We're lagging behind 1 week from Israel because of the way our holiday played out on Shavuot. We will catch up at one point. We're lagging behind in a lot of things from Israel, but this as well. But one way or the other, the parasha this week talks about the Miraglim. In prior classes of previous years, some that I saw were reposted. I guess they were popular, I don't know. We spoke about the element of the Miraglim themselves and what was the Jewish nation's sin and the consequence they paid for it and whatever else. This year I want to put a new twist on it. And I think this is a very big lesson that if we all take, we might actually come out of here better people tonight. Rashi talks about, on the pasuk, Shelach lecha anashim. God tells Moshe Rabbeinu, you want to send spies to Israel based on the Jewish demands? You want to concede to social pressure, otherwise known? Do it. Shlach. And he adds in a word, lecha anashim. For you. This is not for me. I promised you the land was good. But shlach lecha anashim. Comes Rashi and writes, why is the parasha of the Meraglim immediately after the parasha of, not immediately exactly, but close, to the parasha of Miriam, the story when Miriam, on her level, whatever it means, spoke bad about Moshe Rabbeinu, and as a result was punished with leprosy. So Rashi writes, Lama nismecha parashat Meraglim leparashat Miriam. Why are these two connected? Lefi shelakta al iskei diba. Because Miriam got punished for talking bad. She dibra be'achea. That she spoke about her brother. She said, Moshe Rabbeinu, what's he doing? U'reshaim alalu, and these evil people, ra'u ve'lo lakhu musar. They saw Miriam doing something wrong. They saw that there's a consequence for it, and they didn't learn from it anything. To them it meant nothing. There was no lesson. What do we learn from this Rashi? Let's pause for a second. That if somebody sees something that's out of the ordinary in the regular human mind and doesn't learn something from it, that's the description of somebody who's a Rasha. When we say the word Rasha, we associate murderer. Mechalel Shabbat Befaresia. When Rashi saw the word Rasha, Rashi saw somebody who wasn't intellectually honest. You saw the facts. So if you saw the facts clearly, then why didn't you learn something from it? So if we've been through so much chaos in the past 3+ months, 100 and whatever days we're up to already, and so many different changes in all different ways, and nothing, we didn't start rethinking things, then yeah, Rashi doesn't have anything nice to say about that. But what do you rethink? It's very hard when there's so much confusion out there and so many different opinions. Number 2, the Meraglim weren't dummies. They were the giants of the giants. They were the greatest brains in the Jewish nation. They were actually leaders. They took the 12 leaders of the Jewish nation. So were they that stupid? God forbid, right? We don't even understand how great they were. They ended up in very tragic circumstances, which is a great lesson forever, that even big people can make big mistakes. But We got to give them credit for some basics. So what did they get wrong? What was their mistake? What was the core of their mistake? What did they see wrong? Number 3, which 3 might answer to, by the way. What's the comparison? What was the sin by Miriam? Miriam was a person, and she spoke about another person, Moshe Rabbeinu, not just a person, her own brother and the Jewish leader. The Meraglim, the spies, were people, great people, who spoke about, which if you look in the Psukim, they didn't even say anything wrong, but technically they spoke about, not people, they spoke about land. Would you compare somebody who punched a person in his face to somebody who dug a hole in the ground? I wouldn't, right? With the standards that they taught us with these protests, I think you do, because somehow Gucci, Prada, and whatever got involved with the quote value of life. Looters showed us what their value of life is. If the response of death is looting, then your value of life is Breitling. Think about that. That's deep. They went and showed us what their value of their own life is. This is the way we value in life, our lives. And politicians did the same. They showed us that for us to be able to bash a president, which happens to have been the greatest thing for this country, is worth causing chaos in the whole country. Meaning the value of the quality of life of people in the country means nothing, and now let's cause chaos for the sake of a political agenda. Very sad realization, but it's true, unfortunately. Miriam talks bad about a person, not just a person, her brother, not just her brother, which is betrayal of family values, the Jewish leader, betrayal of the whole Jewish nation. The Meraglim come and say, the land is not great, the situation there is not great. And Rashi takes it to the extreme of saying, Miriam messed up that way, Kavyachol, God forbid to talk like that about Miriam, but for the concept, just to visualize it, then these are evil people that they didn't learn from that. Wait a second. She betrayed her brother. They're talking about a piece of land and fruits. What does one have to do with the other? So all these questions, the Straf Sareb, Zechat Tzadik V'Kadosh Livachas, Chutei Yagen Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael, Amen. Who was an Ilui Atzum. He had a brain that's, I don't know if there's a way to describe, but let's just say he made Albert Einstein look like a fool, to put things in proportion. So he discusses this and a lot more in a much deeper way than the way I'm just going to water it down to make it easy to understand. The Shtravtzer Rebbe says that Moshe Rabbeinu accomplished the ultimate goal of man, which was the greatest compliment that God gave him. Moshe Rabbeinu was, as the Torah teaches us, Ve'aish Moshe anav me'od mikol ha'adam asher al pnei ha'adama. Moshe Rabbeinu accomplished to get to the level of the most humble person ever. He was the most humble. He did the ultimate thing. Avraham Avinu said, "V'anochi afar va'efer," but he was still dust. Moshe Rabbeinu was, "V'anachnu ma ki talina aleinu." Ma, nothing. Air. I'm zero. The Torah's description of that is, "Va'ish Moshe anav me'od." Not only was he very humble, the Torah gets very graphic. Mikol adam, from any person, asher al pnei ha'adama. That's on the face of the earth. Comes the Ostrovsa and says that Moshe Rabbeinu viewed himself as one who is below everybody who elevated himself from the level of earth. We're all created from dust. Me'afar bata, me'afar tashuv. We came from dust, we're going back there. One day, in this world we all pick our beautiful cars. And at the end we all get taken in the same blue Cheva Kadisha van and are stuck into a 2x6 hole that costs more than a house these days in Alam Nuchot. We should, that's the way it is. And Moshe Rabbeinu was so humble that to him, anybody who elevated himself from the level of dust was already considered greater than him. Now again, we're talking about the Jewish leader, the one who God says there was never a prophet like him amongst the Jews, the one who brought the Torah down to the Jewish nation and everything else, and this man is the most humble man ever. He views everybody else as greater than him. You have to understand how it's possible, by the way. But he was in denial. He lived in some sort of bubble. Moshe Rabbeinu was also the wisest man of his era. So there's two ways to explain it. The simple way that we once gave a long class on is he took no credit for himself. He gave all the credit to Borei Olam. So at that point, if nothing's my credit, then what's there to show off with? That we spoke about at length in previous classes. But there's another way of understanding it. Moshe Rabbeinu understood other people's challenges. He also understood that he doesn't have those challenges because he saw God face to face. His clarity of faith was on a higher level than the clarity of faith of everyone else. And at that point, his challenges were less than the challenges of others. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't judge a person by his actions. That's an arrogant, shallow person. Anyone who judges anyone is an arrogant, shallow person. Moshe Rabbeinu idolized the people that even though you didn't merit to see God face to face, even though God doesn't speak to you, you still listen to what he has to say. So yeah, maybe in practical implications, I'm greater than you. But based on your situation and your challenge, you're so much greater than me. That was Moshe Rabbeinu's way of looking at people, which is an important life lesson. When you see somebody doing something that you don't agree with, before you open your mouth to tell him whatever you're going to tell him, which you should never open your mouth anyway, because the Gemara already says many years ago, "Batlu hamochichim," there's nobody who knows how to give tochacha. You have to be arrogant to think that you're better than that. Aviv Danasi was the ending of the era of tochacha, and you think you're greater than that. Interesting. Sounds like atheism to me. But okay. Were you able to encompass within yourself exactly all his life challenges? No, you don't even know his life story. And even if you think you do, you don't know the real story, that's for sure. So had you make a judgment call of saying something to somebody without knowing the dynamics of the background, without knowing what he was feeling at the moment, without knowing everything he's going through, where did that arrogance come from? Based on what? Moshe Rabbeinu not only didn't do that, he understood the opposite extreme. He said, everybody is me'al pnei ha'adama. He says, yes, I got to the highest level, but I also was the highest prophet. So my challenge on my level was much less. Their challenges was so much greater. They had so much more darkness in their life. And they had to find so much more light within the darkness. And that's what made them so great. The Meraglim's mistake, the Ostravtzer writes, was that being that Moshe Rabbeinu made light of himself so much, they felt that they can also argue with him. He doesn't respect himself. We don't have to respect him. And they didn't understand that Moshe Rabbeinu's lack of respect of himself was the greatest respect. Because there's no one God loves more than one who's willing to sacrifice himself for the sake of somebody else. Moshe Rabbeinu was the one who took the hit for the Jewish nation time and time again. When God wanted to wipe out the Jewish nation as a result of idol worshipping, he came to God and said, "V'im ayin mecheni na misifrecha asher katavta." If you're not going to forgive them, erase me. I'll take the blame for everybody. He took the hit for the Jewish nation. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't go into Israel taking a hit for the Jewish nation. Every single thing that he went through in his life was taking a hit for the Jewish nation. And when the Jews were the most ungrateful nation to him, by, as Chazal say, Moshe Rabbeinu was extremely wealthy, right? Because Psol Lecha, in the second Luchot, God told him to keep the stone that came from the hollowing of the letters, and that made him extremely wealthy. What did the Jews say? He stole money. Chashdu alei shetish, they said he got divorced. Why? Because he was doing bad things. This business of accusing people falsely is not a new story. It's embedded in Jewish history from Moshe Rabbeinu. And it's very simple. People can't be grateful. What are the Jews going to do? They're going to say, we owe Moshe Rabbeinu our lives forever because if not for him, we'd be slaves in Egypt or dead. It's a lot easier to just say he's a bad guy. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't quit. He should have said, wait a second. You guys want to talk bad about me? You want to do bad things to me? So Okay, I'm done. You don't want me, I don't want you. Have a good day. We'll part ways peacefully. That would be a nice way to say it in today's terms. Let's have a civil divorce. I'm going to resign. Not only didn't he resign or part ways peacefully, he went to the opposite extreme and put his life on the line time and time again to protect Am Yisrael just because he loved them. Despite what they did to him. Despite how they backstabbed him. Despite how they hurt him. That's a leader. A leader is not somebody who says my way or highway. That's somebody who should please resign. The quicker the better. A leader is not somebody who posts signs warning and threatening and dictating to others what to do. Dictators, for that we had Stalin and we had many other Jew haters throughout history. We don't need self-hating Jews. A leader is one who's going to say, I'll take the hit for everyone. You go do what you got to do. That's true Jewish leadership. That was Rav Shlomo Guzvila went to pray by the Arizal Kever when Hitler was coming towards Israel and saw Shem Havaya on top of the grave and said, Hitler won't make it to Israel, but tomorrow I'll pass away. That was leadership. He gave his life so the Jewish nation in Israel should be the She'erit HaPleita, U'Bahar Tzion Tiyah Pleita V'Haya Kodesh. That's the state of Israel that we have today. And like that, many, many, many others in Jewish history who allowed them, their own lives, to get harmed or literally give it up for the sake of saving other lives. And others, not only the ones that were their friends or their close community, others as in the world at large, because every life counts. And because as Jews, we value life. But this business of being ungrateful, and honestly, I have many friends that are in law enforcement. And the past few weeks, the movement has been defund the police department. Well, if we defund the police department, the only people that are hurting themselves are these criminals that are running around protesting right now. Because the only reason why we need a police department in the first place is for them. So, if you want to defund it, no problem. Go back to gang wars on the streets. Good luck to you. It's not going to affect the layman. It's going to affect them.
Go to chat.
It's what?
Go to chat.
They heard it. What exactly are they? They're going to send a social worker. That's the theory, right? The social worker that couldn't keep them off of heroin in the first place is the one who's going to who's going to fix the murder problem after the guy's dead already. That's what we got to, right? This is what we're holding right now in the United States. This is what's popular. This is what's putting somebody who can't put two sentences together as potentially being the next president. This absurd way of thinking. The Mishnah says clearly, so, as people that try to be Yirei Shamayim, we believe in Chazal. And no matter what anybody says, it doesn't make a difference. Because if Chazal said that's the facts, and the rest, just not interested. And Chazal said, yeah, we need a strong police department. And we need a Mora Malchut. And we need a government that has power. Not a large government, and not a government that mixes into your business and takes away your privacy and your rights. Definitely your religious rights illegally and unconstitutionally. No, that we don't need. But we need a government to keep criminals off the street, not to release criminals. The only bail reform we need is that there should be no bail for people that have offenses time and time again. A guy who has 21 things on his criminal record should have never been out in the first place. Then we definitely don't, need to flock our streets with criminals, violent criminals I'm talking about. It's amazing how the Americans are, in a way, the most honest. We write on our dollar bill, "In God we trust." And we mean it really literally. We are the most God-trusting nation. White-collar crimes will put a guy into prison for 27 years like the Tzaddik Rubashkin. But these people that attempted murder and did the worst things, bail reform, we let them out the next day without bail. Felons are on the street. But somebody who was, 50 cents less he paid on his taxes, boom, let's throw him into prison. In God we trust. The only thing they trust in is the dollar. So the dollar amount, that counts. But anything else, human life that has no value. We pass laws that we can't hold doctors, nurses, medical staff, and politicians accountable for the corrupt decisions made throughout the pandemic that cost thousands and thousands of lives in the United States. To protect them. To protect who? If there's no accountability, everybody does whatever they want. It's the wild, wild west. What's left? The number one thing in everything is accountability. Would you allow your employees not to count their registers at the end of the day if you're in retail? Would you allow your accountant to handle your finances without telling you what goes on? Even if he was your friend? I don't think so. So suddenly we allow our lives to be treated in hospitals without any accountability under some weird disguise of a pandemic? Again, no common sense, but once you throw common sense out. So us as Frum Jews, we show a lot of support to the police department and a lot of respect to the police department, not only the New York Police Department, all police departments around the world. Because we respect law and authority. And yes, they are human, and yes, they make mistakes, and yes, there are times that they do things that are tragic, and those who are the corrupt ones should be held accountable just like anybody else. Nobody's above the law. But because there's some bad apples, doesn't make everybody bad. On the contrary, if anything, it should shine all the good. Because in a dark room, the light shines so much brighter. Yesterday there was a picture that went kind of viral from a wedding of 4 police officers standing with a bride and groom. The beauty of our nation. That's what I call those police officers. And it was right at the beginning of this governors thinking they control the world. And the laws were very vague and unclear. And after getting approval from the governor office, he came under some political pressure and decided that he's going to put pressure on the local police department to come down to shut down the wedding. All right, guy's bored, he should get a life, but it's fine. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he was confused at that point and he didn't know what was going on. And these police officers, which I call the beauty of the Jewish nation, I should be upset, right? They came to ruin my party or whatever. Not only wasn't I upset, these are my friends, I call them. Came to pose. And they said, listen, we got to do what we got to do because we're all confused. We don't know what's the right thing for public safety. And we got to take extra precautions. And obviously we told them back, we respect that fully and kol hakavod. But they didn't want a bride and groom to leave with a bad taste in their mouth. So they went and spent time, not a minute or two, a decent amount of time, posing for pictures with them to turn what could have been a painful experience into a humoristic experience in their life. Something that they should hold on to and remember. This is our beauty of law enforcement. The ones who care about human life. And the ones that we, as people, should show gratitude and respect for. And us as Frum Jews today have to go to the opposite extreme. When you see a cop in 7-Eleven, smile at them and say good morning and say thank you for your service. Because if these lunatics are fighting them, the least we can do is show them that we do respect law and order. They are worth something to us. These are people that are risking their lives. Many of them got killed in line of duty, including people that I knew and I grew up with and with my friends, for the sake of protecting others. That's really what it is. Their salaries are not that great, definitely if you work in the NYPD. Not the best job to get. You can probably make more cleaning, washing floors. Not probably, actually for sure. The union rate of janitorial services right now is higher than the NYPD starting salary. Sad but true. And now they want to defund even that, so God knows what's left. I just want to know if Blasio has a few muggers masked, because he put out the mask laws, coming to his house at night, if he's going to call the police or a social worker at that point. I'm just wondering. I'm wondering if he'll care enough to answer that question. I'm wondering why when he drives down the highway he has police cars in front of him and behind him. Maybe he should just lay in the back of an ambulance with a psychiatrist. If that's the solution, set an example. Don't preach, practice. Now, racial disparity, I don't know anything about. So I don't like talking about things I don't know anything about. But guess what? We're Jews, we're a minority, and we were definitely persecuted against too. Okay, so I will admit that in the past few days, our youth did what our elders weren't willing to do, and they also decided to go out to protest in the cutest way. They didn't loot any stores. They didn't destroy anything. They didn't even disrupt traffic. They stayed on the sidewalks. And they went on their bicycles and just held up signs that said, kids' lives matter. And I agree with them. Kids' lives do matter. And to take kids away from the social world for so many months is murder. It's first-degree murder. It's destroying them emotionally for life. I don't care all the justifications in the world. You got a problem? Figure it out. If you're able to figure out how to keep stage 4 cancer patients alive, figure out how to keep these kids emotionally healthy. And everybody agrees that their lack of emotional interaction at such young, fragile ages is detrimental to their mental health for the rest of their lives. And their lives matter. And I didn't hear that being addressed. I just heard about, we hope, maybe thinking about opening schools in September. And if not, then next year. What does it make a difference? Let them learn on Zoom. It's our priorities really got messed up as a result of being influenced by news. We just lost it. What about all these kids that are stuck home for months and are traumatized and don't sleep at night and wake up crying and screaming in the middle of the night because all they hear is that if they don't unsafely wear a mask, that'll gag themselves by breathing in their own carbon monoxide for hours on end, they're going to die or something, or whatever the media told them is going to happen. So until now, I was still naive, and I wanted to believe that people had good intentions, so I didn't say anything. I stayed quiet against my nature for a long time. But then I saw an interesting thing. 1,200 doctors and professors that are considered medical professionals, and some politicians joined them as well, who were the ones who were giving us the narrative all along of what should or shouldn't be. And these were the ones that we followed blindly. And when I say we, even in the rabbinic world, in some communities, they followed blindly to make medical decisions and decisions for their communities based on, went and signed a letter saying that the value of the change that can be made by these protests of Black Lives Matter and minimizing racial disparity is much greater than the danger of COVID-19. And therefore, these protests are all suddenly legal everywhere and no restrictions. The same governor that preached to us in New Jersey that we can't go to yeshiva went standing with thousands of people or 1,000 people on the street not wearing a mask. And the same thing happened in many cities, states, and as I'm sure you've seen in the past 3 weeks. There you go. So what did they just show us by that letter? Values. The double standard. But as frum Jews, we believe that everything is done for us. So what was done for us? That was Hashem telling us, saying, where are your values? Why don't you realize that your Amen Yesh Shmei Rabbah is more powerful than everything in the world? Why don't you realize that you kissing the Sefer Torah is the most important thing ever? Why don't you realize that your relationship with me is the only reason why you're alive? And if something's a greater value than the risk, everything in life is assessed risk. And I'm not getting into the dialogue of Nishmatem Od Lenafshotechem and all that, because honestly, when somebody will put something out in writing that's thorough and proven, both on a medical front and an halachic front combined, and that would take a lot of work, and good luck doing that, because there's not a lot of information on the subject, and all the information is conflicting, and definitely after that, everybody who ever gave any information is discredited instantly. Then we can discuss that part of it. But until then, just a basic way of thinking. This is not a advice of practical implication. That everybody should do what he understands or what his person who he follows tells him. This is just an attitude adjustment of what really matters to me. And what is more and less important. And what am I tolerant of and what am I not tolerant of? We're being preached tolerance for the past 2 weeks in the United States. But to the best of my knowledge, when a few people made a minyan in Williamsburg, there was no tolerance for that. And when a rabbi died and some people went to that funeral, there was no tolerance for that either. It's a shame that they didn't put a Black Lives Matter sign up. They would have got away with it. And when kids made a carnival, there was no tolerance for that either. The children making a carnival, that wasn't, but looting, that was important. That's such an important moment of change, to see stores in Manhattan on Fifth Avenue boarded up What an important, memorable moment of change in our life. It's important to be aware of this so we don't get corrupted by this sick way of thinking. And we don't fall into this trap, no matter who's writing it or preaching it, on every front. Extremely important. Moshe Rabbeinu went and said, we will not judge. We will not label people. We will not label communities based on what they do or don't do. Why? Because ha'adama, you don't know what they're going through. You don't know what their challenges are. You don't understand them. You don't know their situation. So who are you to say? Mind your own business. Stick to your own thing. Make your own decisions. I love the way people show up to another community, sometimes even in a different town, and start voicing opinions. You don't even know what's going on. Nobody's interested. Have a good day. Goodbye. Should be done very politely, but that's where it starts and ends. You understand the dynamics, you understand the consequences, you understand anything. And then we start mixing into God's opinions too. We all became God's spokesman. And on that Hashem wrote in the Aseret HaDibot, Lo tisad shem Hashem Elokecha lashav. Don't use my name in vain. Please leave me out of it. The Meraglim went and saw Moshe Rabbeinu, the Ostrovtzer writes, considering himself Adama. So they said, okay, if he says that he's like the land, like the dust, fine, so we'll treat him that way. And they learned from that they can make parallels. Comes Rashi and says, we hold a person to his standards. If you went and said that if Moshe Rabbeinu considers himself Adama, then that's okay, then at that point, when you talk bad about Adama, that's not okay. Because you're a Rasha, you should have learned that you're not allowed to talk bad. Meaning, the standards that we are going to set ourselves, and what we do or don't do now, is the way Borei Olam is going to look at us going forward. This is a very critical moment in Jewish history. Because the decisions that we make are going to be what affects us going forward. And of course, there's a very important mitzvah in the Torah, v'nishmartem od lenafshotechem. But there are many other important mitzvot in the Torah. And if we take the mitzvah v'nishmartem od lenafshotechem and utilize it in the most extreme way, as some people have written in their letters in the past few months, saying that as Jews we value life so much, so we have to be very machmir. The Gemara says, Gadola machtio yoter min ha'orgo. Somebody who causes somebody else to sin is worse than one who kills him. And I turn to all those who wrote those letters and ask, were they makbid on the same level of tzniut by the weddings that they initiated? Were they makbid on the same level of tzniut in the synagogues that they had as this v'nishmartem od lenafshotechem? No, we can't tell people what to wear. Now God's going to come to them and say, yes, you could. You put up a sign, no mask, no entry. You realize what's going to happen now? People prosecuted themselves. If you can put up a sign, no mask, no entry, you can write on the bottom of your wedding invitation, please come in modest attire. And if you can't tell people what to do, then don't say anything. Then mind your own business. And don't say that one affects another and the other one doesn't. Gadola machtio yoter min ha'orgo. Chazal say it's worse than murder. It's a lot worse than a roidif. That's the ultimate roidif. But CNN won't share this with you. So I had to. What should I do? Lahavdil. And now we learn from this parsha. But there's another interesting pshat from the Sfas Emes that goes along the same lines. Sfas Emes asks on Rashi didn't say one extra word. Every letter in Rashi is calculated. There's thousands of Sfarim that were written to analyze every word in Rashi, in Tanakh and in the Gemara. Every word, every letter. Why did Rashi write a word this way? Because everything from Rashi was 100% flawless. So if Rashi wrote an extra word, then there was a reason. It should have just said, Rashi should have just wrote, U'shayim alalu lo lakhu musar. They didn't take Musar. Why did they say, U'shayim alalu ra'u v'lo lakhu musar? They saw and they didn't. What do you mean they saw? Obviously they saw, they were there. If Rashi had to write the obvious, that means he was trying to teach something. So what was Rashi trying to teach by this Ra'u? What was the lesson? And the lesson is very simple. Comes the Sfasemis and writes an unbelievable thing. There's a Gemara in Brachot Afei Amud Bet. The Gemara is an interesting discussion. There's two types of suffering if we generalize on a very shallow level in life. One is a person suffering because of himself or his own actions or whatever it is. And another one is called Yisurim Shel Ahava. There were very righteous people in Jewish history that suffered greatly. And now is Et Asher Yohav Hashem Yochiach. Certain tzaddikim get to the level that their Yisurim have nothing to do with sin or anything else. Just the opposite is Yisurim Shel Ahava. It's some sort of bond with God that they have. I'm not sure how to explain that in a few minutes, so maybe one day we'll give a shiur on Avlinat to explain at length what Yisurim Shel Ahava means. The Gemara discusses about Negaim. And the Gemara says, Kol min sheyesh bo echad ma'arba'a marot negaim alalu, einam ela mizbach kapara. And this Gemara is discussing Yisurim Shel Ahava or not. And the Gemara concludes, Kan betzina, kan befarhesia. Comes Rashi and writes, betzina means hidden, farhesia means public. Rashi writes, betzina tachat gadav. She'az ein ro'eh otam shum adam. Ve'elu Yisurim Shel Ahava. If somebody has leprosy under his clothing, so that's Yisurim Shel Ahava. That's a very spiritual person. Because that's between him and God. It doesn't affect him. Nobody sees it. But if somebody has it on his face, for example, in a way that everybody sees it, so then at that point, that's not Yisurim Shel Ahava, because that's a public thing. Comes the Sfasem is based on that. This is a brilliant chidush. This is priceless. Yezul alalu ra'u v'lo lakhu musar. They saw. What did they see? We could have said, maybe, of course, they didn't learn anything from Miriam, because they said, you know why Miriam got leprosy? She was a big tzaddiket. Yisurim Shel Ahava. Had nothing to do with what she said about Moshe Rabbeinu. But being the Gemara concludes something that you can see is not Yisurim Shel Ahava. U'shayim alalu ra'u, Rashi had to add on. It was something that people were able to see. Once people were able to see it, they knew it wasn't Yisurim Shel Ahava. If it's not Yisurim Shel Ahava, Rasha, why didn't you learn Musar from that? You should have known to stay away. I said what I said tonight in order for us never to fall under the category of Shayim alalu ra'u v'lo lakhu musar. If we saw such hypocrisy in the political system, in the medical system, and in the legal system, all within 100 days, we cannot be the Rishayim that will not take Musar from this. And the greatest Musar we have to take from this is Ve'ein lanu al mili sha'en ela al avinu shebashamayim. Just go with emunah pshuta, without all the noise, without all the craziness, without all the opinions. Don't even look at the opinions. Who cares what he has to say? Simple emunah, the old authentic way, you and God, your bond with God, and whatever keeps you connected to God, and then you're good. Once you get involved, this one said, and that one said, and this opinion, and that opinion, and the other opinion, you'll never be sane. You're going to lose it all. And being that we believe in eternal optimism, not believe, we live eternal optimism. So let me tell you about the two people that are going to read the parasha this week. There's one group of people that are going to read the parasha this week, and one set of speakers or whatever that are going to talk about this great sin that the Miraglim did, and it's going to be a Shabbat to promote the value of not talking Lashon Hara and things like that, which is great and very important. But then there are others that will just be the eternal optimists. And I bless you all, including all the viewers that will see this before Shabbat, that this Shabbat you should become that eternal optimist, and that should stick with you forever. On Kippur, when we summarize the whole Kippur in our prayers, we turn to God with words that come from this parasha. V'nislach l'chol adat b'nei Yisrael. And it should be forgiven, the sins of the whole Jewish nation. V'lager agar b'tocham, and even the affiliates. Ki l'chol ha'am b'shgaga. Because the whole Am Yisrael are shogegim. Or today we could say even anusim. Was just a mistake. Some of us can look back at this and say, this one was evil, and this one was wrong, and this one was corrupt, and this one was this, and this one was that. And they're probably all right, by the way. There was nothing honest, that's for sure. But what are you going to gain? Have more people on your hit list. Have more people that you hate. What's going to come out of that? Be the eternal optimist. Look that even out of the Chet HaMeraglim, and even out of the tragedy that it caused, and even out of Moshe Rabbeinu not going to Israel, and even out of all of this that happened, and then, by the way, until today we're paying a price for the Chet HaMeraglim. Even out of all of that, there's still something nice in it. When Yislach lechol adat b'nei Yisrael. On Yom Kippur this year, when we're going to come in, we're going to be able to tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when Yislach lechol adat b'nei Yisrael, Ribono shel olam, ki lechol am b'shgaga. They made us so crazy, they confused us so much, they gave us so much false information. How can you blame us for anything we do wrong in life? We don't even know who to trust anymore. Everything is we're lost. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what did he tell Moshe Rabbeinu as a result? Yeah, I forgive them. I'm willing to forgive the whole Jewish nation. And that's why the parasha ends with the mitzvah of tzitzit. And the mitzvah of tzitzit, leman tizkiru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'elechem. What should you remember? V'asitem et kol mitzvotai. Don't remember what the media told you yesterday, and don't remember what the news briefing of the governor told you the day before. That ain't getting you anywhere. You know what you got to have before your eyes? Leman tizkiru. Thank God nobody wrote a letter, don't kiss your tzitzit anymore. You know, I saw letters not to kiss your fake Torah, so God knows what was coming next. Don't fall into that trap. Leman tizkiru. Remember one thing: v'asitem et kol mitzvotai. There's a Ribono shel olam in the world, and He loves you. And He gave you the medicine to all illness. And He never created an illness in the world that He didn't create a medication for in advance. Hashem is magdim refuah lamachala. He has the heal before along the way people passed away. I don't know cheshbonot shamayim. When you'll answer me why 6 million people died in World War II, and why people died in the Holocaust, in World War I, and why people died in Harugei Beitar, which according to Gemara's lowest estimate is about 60 million, and why, then we'll talk about this. But until you don't have all those answers, then obviously you're not such a great mathematician. So stay out of God's calculations. It's okay. I don't know why. But what I do know is HaKadosh Baruch Hu summarizes everything with one thing. Just remember, I'm God. I gave you a way of life. And I did it for your benefit. V'yitem kedoshim le'elechem, and be a holy person. And holiness, as we explain, is to be the eternal giver. Because God is the eternal giver. And Hashem tells the Jews, Ani Hashem Elokechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'elokim. And then He repeats again, Ani Hashem Elokechem. Doesn't that sound repetitious? Ani Hashem Elokechem, I am your God, asher hotzeiti etchem, that I took you out, me'eretz Mitzrayim, from the land of Egypt, liot lachem le'elokim, to be for you a God. Ani Hashem Elokechem, I am your God. You just said I am your God. Huh? It's interesting, what?
He means it.
So, Chazal learn out from these things, obviously. But al derech haremez, this is not literal, it's al derech haremez. We left Egypt quickly, right? I'm sure from your young years in school you remember why. Your Rebbe probably, or Mora taught you in school. Because the Jews were in the 49th gate of impurity. And if God would have, v'lo yachlu litma'ameh, they couldn't even wait another second. If they would have waited another second, then they would have went into the 50th, and from the 50th, there's no way back. Definitely prior to Matan Torah. Comes God and says, Ani Hashem, I am God, Hashem is Rachamim. Elokechem, Elokim is Din, judgment. I'm the God who sometimes you see me as the God of love, and sometimes you see me as the God of judgment. Sometimes you see people dying, and other times you see people prosperous and healthy. I want you to know, Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim. You weren't doing the right thing. You were in the land of Egypt. You were the lowest of the low. You were the farthest away from me that could possibly be. You were in 49 Sha'arei Tumah. Ani Hashem Elokechem. I stayed the same exact God. Because I am the eternal giver. What you were or weren't up to in life wasn't what made the difference in what I did for you. In Egypt, God gave on Tzonei Yisrael, and Hashem should help that all the tzarot further should be always only on Tzonei Yisrael. many, many plagues. And what did he say about those plagues? Kol ha'chala shel samti b'Mitzrayim lo asim alecha ki ani Hashem rofecha. Ki ani Hashem rofecha is what we have to live today. Hashem is the rofei kol basar. That's where it starts and that's where it ends. I think we all learned that in the past few weeks clearly. At the beginning, we still believed doctors. Very quickly, after they all signed that letter, we saw what their agendas are. And very quickly, when we saw protests outside of hospitals that do abortions, that Black Lives Matter, while they're killing black lives inside, through abortions, we saw what their values are. Hashem cleansed the world. He exposed everything. He said, look, this is who you're relying on. The Gemara in Sotah says the last sign for Mashiach to come is ve'ein lanu al mi lisha'en ela al avinu shebashamayim. That a Jew realizes there's no one that you can trust. There's one and only one, Hashem himself. I think we got to that point. There's no more politicians. There's nobody protecting us. They're defunding our police departments. They're taking apart our country. They're going to put a semi-senile person into office. They're going to do whatever they want. All that is not Hashem saying, it's Ani Hashem Elokechem. Hashem saying, yeah, it might look like Elokechem right now, but Ani Hashem. And even though maybe your situation is not the best spiritually, Asher Hotzeiti Etchem Me'eretz Mitzrayim, you were in a much worse situation then. You were in the depth of slavery and sin and everything. Ani Hashem Elokechem. That's the God that I am. And never forget that. And that's why Hashem repeated it. Meaning this wasn't only a past tense thing, Hashem says. This is the way it's going to be. Ve'ein lanu al mi lisha'en, when we come together tonight with this conclusion, there's nobody to rely on anymore, and the system collapsed on its own. And as the Ramak already wrote many years ago, Harame misit atzmo, the evil is going to be self-destructive. And all these self-destructive people exactly accomplished that. They did us the greatest spiritual favor possible. Now, we'll go back to hugging the Sefer Torah, saying, Ve'ein lanu ela Torah azot, what's left? Just the words of God, and just Ahavat Yisrael, and just being a Kadosh, somebody holy. And a Kadosh is one and only one thing, Asher Hotzeiti Etchem Me'eretz Mitzrayim. Somebody will go down into the dumps to pick up somebody else and to help him out, and not judge him, and not come to any conclusions with him. I just want to end off, you'll excuse me for using my phone, but I have to read it from my phone because I don't have that great of a memory to remember a letter that I vaguely saw. But I know there have been a lot of letters about things lately. Most of them I wouldn't value to quote, but as one who lives in Lakewood, when the Rosh Yeshivas of Lakewood write a letter, that means a lot to me. And I hope it means a lot to the whole Jewish nation. Thank God we're proud to say that we are the largest Torah institution in the world until Mashiach comes. So the Rosh Yeshivas of Lakewood today put out a letter where they discuss, sorry, my vision is a little, small letters is a little hard for me. I'm going to read the letter actually, so I don't misquote. Lenochach ha'magefa asher kistat tevel, as a result of the plague that covered the world, al koshi ha'gzeira shenigzera aleinu, on the hardship of the decree that was placed upon us. But pay attention to the words, because this is what real Bnei Torah write. Val bitul Torah, and on the lack of learning Torah in Am Yisrael, utfilah, and prayer, asher nigremu lanu, that were caused to us, or in some cases forced upon us, asher shover kol ruach vanefesh, that breaks every spirit and soul. What did the Rosh Yeshivas in Lakewood address right at the beginning of their letter? What the terrible decree that happened to us was the bitul Torah and the bitul tefillah, which that alone is heart-wrenching. V'anu amdim b'matzav kashe biyoter, al af ha'akalot asher nirot la'ayin, hem rak tipa min hayam. And we're still in a terrible situation against the goyim, even though they're in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, depending where you live, of quote-unquote lifting restrictions. Mechovateinu lefartam ulasim lev lehem. It's our obligation to list them and to pay attention to them. Af sheniftechu batei knesiyot ubatei midrashot al gvul hachok. Even though I don't know how it is in this local town, I hope it's like this as well. If not, they should do tshuva quickly. But even though the synagogues were open and the batei midrash were all open, adayin kayamot migbalot kashot aleim. There's still rules. There's still many different things that apply within them. Mosdot HaChinuch, our academic places, our places that we study Torah, פועלים במגבלות של שעות ספורות, they're only open for certain hours of the day. וכמו כן, מספר התלמידים והתלמידות, and they're also restricted to the amount of boys and girls that they could have at a time within the school system. כל התורה נדם מבית מדרשי הישיבה הקדושה. The voice of the Torah has been quiet in the epicenter of Torah of the world, the Lakewood Yeshiva. They locked their own doors of our beloved yeshiva down. Pilpula v'ritcha deoraita beina amudim, the turmoil and studying of Torah Kedosha between those beautiful pillars. Hashiurim, the classes, v'chaburot, and the groups, hasichot musar, the musar classes, v'atfilah ha'yeshivatit, and the prayer in the yeshiva, which is a whole different prayer than praying in some random shtibel, or definitely a disqualified prayer praying on some porch. Mipnei gzeirat hamemshal, because of the decree of a government. Sakana ruchanit orevet letzirei utzirot irenu. A tragic danger, a spiritual danger, is hovering over our youth, our boys and girls. Asher aleihem anu doagim, that on them we're extremely worried. לאור סגירת הישיבות, בתי הספר ומחנות הקיץ, because yeshivot, schools and summer camps are closed. נפשנו דואגות ודואבות על החולים הרבים בעירנו. Our heart is worried and goes out for the many ill people in our city. אשר סבלם ויגונם נושאים עם משפחותם, that they're suffering, they carry together with their families. וזקוקים לרחמי שמיים לרפואתם ולהחלימם. And they need mercy of God to get better soon. And no, they're not talking about COVID-19 patients. Thank you, we are clean from that right now in our town for many weeks already. But unfortunately, we have many families in town that have children that are not well with many other illnesses that we suddenly forgot exist in the Jewish community. But that was bullet point number 5. Look at what Ben Torah's priorities are. The expression of pain of the synagogues that were left empty for a while. Thank God they're filling up nicely by us. The expression of pain of the yeshiva, the greatest yeshiva in the world, where the Torah of the world has shed light on the world for so many years and protected the whole Jewish nation. And the pain of every Jew suffering on any level. Lachona, and this is their last bullet point. Lately, נתווסף עלינו על חרדת המהומות המתקיימות ברחבי המדינה. We also got in addition the fear of the protests that are going on in the country. שלא יפרצו דרכם לקהילות ישראל. They shouldn't make their way towards the Jews. And by the way, I'm not quoting from this letter, I'm pausing for a second. Don't fool yourself. This is not a movement of people that are out to fight for just social justice. They are funded by left Jew-hating liberals, and unfortunately, their largest funder is a self-hating Jew himself who assimilated. This is Marisayich u'machrivayich mimei chitzeu. Occupy Wall Street was a game in comparison to these lunatics. They know no boundaries. They won't succeed on us as long as we keep our synagogues open and study and go to pray in them. But they do exist. And then they conclude their letter, and this is the message, and with this I end. La'eit kazot. What do we do at this time? What's our response? So some people are busy going on interviews by the goyim on the television stations. Others are lobbying in Congress and wasting time. Some people put out cute videos of cutting locks in different parks. All right. Might bring a smile to people's faces, maybe, I don't know. But other than that, won't do much. Some people wear gorilla masks. Each one does his thing, everybody with his thing. But what's the Rashi Yeshivot, the greatest yeshiva in the world's opinion? La'eit kazot, at this time, ein lanu ela litfos umanut avoteinu biyadeinu. Our only solution is to hold the skills that our forefathers gave us in our hands. Leharim koleinu b'tfilah, to raise our voice in prayer. Lechalot ulechanen pnei shochen meromim. To turn and to plead by God who dwells above. L'rachem al amo hanatun b'tzara. To have mercy on his nation that's going through tragic times. Gvar gilu lanu chazal. And our holy rabbis already taught us, shetfilat tzadikim, that the prayer of the righteous, mehapechet midotav shel Hashem mimidat hadin lemidat harachamim, will turn over God's trait of judgment into the trait of mercy. We're at a time that Am Yisrael needs more mercy than definitely recent history, or very recent history. We're at very challenging moments on so many fronts. What's the solution? No mask and no hand sanitizer is going to save you from nothing. I'm not saying if the law requires it, it's fine. I don't know what you do, okay? The law requires a lot of things, and we do them because we're law-abiding citizens. Again, we believe in law, and we believe in order. But that's not helping nobody or saving nobody. We take umnut avoteinu biyadeinu. We take the tools that our forefathers gave us. And that's the koach hatfilah, the great power that we have in our prayers. And we use those to turn to God. Lachein anu machrizim. Therefore we're announcing al Yom Aleph this coming Sunday, Chavtet Sivan, Erev Rosh Chodesh. Erev Rosh Chodesh, I think it was supposed to typo. It should be Tammuz, but anyway. Al Yom Aleph Chavtet Sivan. On Erev Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, in other words, Tfilat Yom Kippur Katan. The Sfardim are less acquainted with that, because that wasn't our custom on a regular month. But the Ashkenaz, every Erev Yom Kippur, it's like Kippur itself. Erev Rosh Chodesh is like Kippur, it's a very holy day. And they add to that, their mincha becomes an hour and a half long. They have a whole piece of slichot there. Shel kol ha-minyanim ha'itkamim be'irenu. All the minyanim in our town, and we're a proud town to have minyanim. Now that they wrote it, I can say it. Thank God all our synagogues are wide open. Baruch Hashem. Thank God they're full. And thank God that Amen Yeshmei Rabbah is roaring. And ever since that started, there's not one hospitalization from COVID-19. Because somebody who says Amen Yeshmei Rabbah b'chavana u'b'kol ram gozrim lo gzar din, Hashem erases the decree. So in all the minyanim in our city, they're talking about Lakewood, asher yitachdu bizman achid, that they should gather together at the same time, b'sheva ba'erev, at 7 in the evening, yom ha'msugal biyoter l'tshuva u'ma'asim tovim, a day that's extremely important for tshuva and ma'asim tovim, v'chovotenu lepashpesh b'ma'aseinu, and we are obligated to take an internal look at our own lives, v'chol ha'achad yagia latikun hanachon, and everybody will correct himself in the right way. That's the way Gdolei Yisrael talk. They don't preach. They say, lev yodei amarat nafsho, you know best what you have to get better at. So figure out what your story is. We're not going to tell you what to do. Nitorer kulanu la'arim shofar koleinu b'bchi u'v'tza'aka. We will all awaken to raise our voices with tears and... Zaka literally means scream, but it's a scream means from the heart. To pray to the God that chose us from all nations. He gave us the light of His Torah and made us holy with His holiness. So we should plead for mercy not only for our own community, as in Lakewood, they were writing it in the Lakewood context, but for the rest of the communities of the world. And unfortunately, maybe we won't have a shul on Sunday until today, embarrassingly enough. And Hashem should protect over us from this shat kas. Those who sign, through a prayer and a request, that we should all merit, for the Yeshua of Hashem on His nation and on His dwelling places. And then the signatures, Harav Agon HaTzadik, our Rosh Yeshiva, Malkiel Kotler Shlita, Hashem should give him a long life, and Rabbi Yucham Olshin, Rabbi David Tzvi Schuster, and Rabbi Yisrael Newman, the other 3 Rosh Yeshivot at the Lakewood Yeshiva. This is the Bnei Torah's attitude to a crisis. This is how we save Am Yisrael. We gather together be'achdut, at the same time, with minyanim, in synagogues, proud, berov am, and we turn to God and say, "Dai, enough. Am Yisrael suffered enough." From here on, Tammuz, Rashi Tevot Zman Tshuva Memashmesh Uba. It's almost Rosh Hashanah. Shortly, it's going to be Rosh Hashanah already. Yeah, shortly it's going to be Rosh Hashanah already. And don't fool yourselves. If we don't pray now, what's Rosh Hashanah going to look like? That's why Tammuz Rashi Tevot Zman Tshuva Memashmesh Uba. You got to prepare yourself. Another year went by. Yeah, just a little while ago we were talking about Rosh Hashanah, right? There was packed houses here. Slichot every night, speeches, packed. We have to pray to God now to be prepared. So when we come into Rosh Hashanah, we come in with the achana for Rosh Hashanah, we come in mitoch tshuva shlema be'ezer Hashem. Hashem should help that we should have tkab shofar gadol v'cherutein way before Rosh Hashanah already. We should hear the real kol shofar, the shofar of Melech HaMashiach, mitoch nachat v'simcha, and take away what I said, the eternal optimist. Yes, the parasha talks a lot about sin. But v'nislach lechol adat b'nei Yisrael. We are sure that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to forgive us, and forgives us every second of the day. Ki lechol ha'am mishkaga, because nobody means bad. Shabbat shalom.